Harambee! Neno hili si hivyo. Mambo ni matatu.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome back to our channel once again. Edwin Sifuna today made some interesting posts about Linda Wananchi. And that post was purely targeting those who have been pushing him to run for the presidency of the Republic of Kenya in 2027.
Nasikia wanasema mnanichocha. Wanasema mnanichocha, si ndio? Wanasema ni moto ya gazeti. Wanasema ni maji moto haiwezi choma nyumba. Nataka nione kwa mkono wale ambao wamechukua kura hapa. Kwa hivyo mkisema nyinyi ndio Sifuna na tumeamua tuende vita, tia gasi ikipigwa nigeuke nikute mmetoroka nyinyi watu. Nikute mmetoroka. Sasa nimeambiwa tuko na tent ya IBC pale ya registration, si ndio? Nimeambiwa kuanzia jana kuna watu kama 100 walichukua kura, wengine walichukua juzi. Leo nikifika hapa nimeambiwa kuna watu 50 wenye wamejiregister leo. Hawa watu kwa sababu leo ni Friday. Hapa Nairobi wananiita waziri wa sherehe.
Allow me to read for you that post because the post is targeting the Gen Zs. This is what Edwin Sifuna posted in the morning. We closed the week at just under 25,000 pale lindawananchi.com. This is impressive. I want you to pay very close attention. This is impressive, lakini perspective ni muhimu. 25K will get you elected MCA in almost all wards in Kenya. MP in a few constituencies. And senator in Lamu and Isiolo counties going by 2022 data. Mkae mkijua. Then akaweka hiyo emoji. Ladies and gentlemen, why do you think Edwin Sifuna made this post? And what's wrong? That's exactly what I want to try and explain to you guys on this platform. Because when Linda Wananchi was formed, there are few things which I pointed out to you guys. But most of you could not believe. For example, in one of my videos, I think I remember explaining who could be behind the formation of this website. But let us not get into that for now. Let us begin by asking our first question. Why do you think that website was formed by Sifuna? Two main reasons only. Edwin Sifuna wanted to gauge the prospects, whether the hype he was getting online could actually translate to vote. So what he did was simple. Edwin Sifuna went, formed the website, and allowed the counter to be displayed to the public because they had the option of being able as admins to be the ones to see the count. So they made it possible for us to know how many people have registered. So according to their mind, they had expected Kenyans to flood it. In fact, even personally, I thought by now, those figures, in fact, even by the time it was being pulled down, those figures would have reached 1 million plus and counting. But after 1 week, Edwin Sifuna is reporting himself, nobody else, that there are only 24,619. So he wanted to gauge the prospect. So if you are to be a honest politician or a honest political advisor like myself, I would tell Edwin Sifuna that based on these numbers, this cannot make you the president. The second thing he wanted to do, the second thing Edwin Sifuna wanted to test was the seriousness of Kenyans. Because if Kenyans were serious, especially Kenyans online were serious, the first test would have been for them to register. Then if, for example, they had registered, let's say 2 million people, every weekend, if they're going for an event, you would just ask them to contribute, let's say 10 bob, 20 bob. That will be enough money for them to sustain the campaign throughout. But something wrong happened somewhere along the way, which is going to form the basis of this analysis. Before I explain to you guys, in case you're watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support. Because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to dive in. What went wrong? Number one, and I still believe so, this website, the formation, was the work of the NIS. I remember when I first explained who could have been behind this website, and I brought in the name of NIS, someone almost came for my neck on this platform. And he told me, Lee, sometimes you stretch your imaginations way too far. Today, I'm going to explain to you guys why I strongly believe that the NIS were behind this website without Edwin Sifuna knowing. The people, he might know the people at personal level, but the NIS could be behind it. Edwin Sifuna support base comes from which party? Let us just be honest. The truth is, Edwin Sifuna's support base comes from ODM supporters. And why is Edwin Sifuna popular? Edwin Sifuna is popular because he is the only person in ODM party who was opposed publicly, for that matter, to the broad-based government. By the time Raila Odinga was dying, he was in broad-based government. But the truth of the matter is that Raila Odinga went to broad-based government and he went alone. He left his supporters. Then he realized his supporters were behind. Raila Odinga then decided to come back to persuade some of his supporters to join the broad-based government. Some of them came, but some of them, majority of them, were still not very pleased with the broad-based government. Because remember, Raila Odinga joined the broad-based government at the time or at the peak of the Gen Z protest. And the Gen Zs were telling Raila, Baba, wewe kaa nyumbani, tunakuletea ikiti. So Raila really disappointed most of them. Edwin Sifuna being one of them. As fate would have it, Raila Odinga passed on. Sifuna still maintained that trajectory. That this broad-based government, no. Then ODM started pushing, after the death of Raila Odinga, started pushing for this broad-based government very funnily. Remember, when Raila was there, he would try to cool things. Then from nowhere, these guys kicked Edwin Sifuna out as the SG of the party. So in short, Edwin Sifuna became very popular the moment he was kicked out as the SG of the party. Why? Because majority of ODM, who are his support base, believed 100% that he was right and they were willing to help him fight within ODM party. Then from nowhere, because NIS were behind this, they realized that Sifuna support base was the ODM support base. But ODM is still there. These guys are with Sifuna, but ODM is still there. Then they came up with this website. So the ODM supporters, who are the support base of Edwin Sifuna, were like, why would Edwin Sifuna create a website when ODM itself has a website? Or why would he create a website when he has not done for ODM party? So most of these supporters failed to go and register. That's the thing. So they raised several questions. But majority of those who registered were people who are, they were not really, for a lack of a better word, ODM supporters. So that is what affected Edwin Sifuna the most, because the NIS knew the timing was not right. They would have wanted a situation where Sifuna fought within ODM party until after the NDC. And then the NDC, because of course he's going to be kicked out, the NDC would kick him out. Then now from there, create the website, start the movement, poop, run away with it. So the timing. Number two, and this is something which I don't know, but it will not happen. The face of Sisi ndio Sifuna. At some point now, it became apparent that, you know, the people pushing for Sisi ndio Sifuna are people who really celebrated the death of Raila Odinga. Then they started going for these rallies. Then there were no branding of ODM. Then ODM supporters who were supporting Sifuna started raising questions, and they were not getting answers. For example, why were most of these political events, ODM color were not there? Why is it that we go for these political rallies, but ODM members are not given a chance to speak? But we see these ladies who really abused Raila when Raila Odinga was alive. So, tumekuachia. So as much as the hate for Ruto, and they want to support anybody who is opposed to Ruto, some of these things are like, they don't want to commit. So if someone is close to Sifuna, he should go and whisper some of these things for free to him. Because I understand politics. The third problem, the third thing which went wrong, and this one I pointed out, the Kenyan hype. You see, there's a very big problem with Kenyans. They can really hype things. And in fact, Edwin Sifuna at some point pointed it out that, you know, I hope I'm in church. The Kenyan hype normally die very fast. And then they move on to the next thing. If there was one thing which was so easy to maintain in this country, was the one term. But we left one term, went for Kasongo, so you went for what, came back to one term. Of course, one term is still constant there. But Sisi Sifuna was a hype. The rage, the emotions about Sifuna being kicked out was going to die. It has died. Yeah? Sifuna has created a name for himself. But the wave is gone. They've moved on to the next thing. Tuko kadi. And I've seen people like Wamunyoro, everybody has jumped onto Tuko kadi. So they should have waited for this to go on. So anybody relying on the Kenyan hype for his politics, I have bad news for you. It has not worked. It will never work. That is the honest truth. So Sifuna and the group banked on that Kenyan hype. And number four, I think Sifuna is also being sabotaged internally within Linda Wananchi itself. For example, I conducted an opinion poll on this channel. And the results really shocked me, because from those results, Edwin Sifuna has really performed so well. Sifuna has performed so well from those results. 51% of people are saying he's the most popular. Then there's Kalonzo, then there is Rigathi. Of course, there's also Matiang'i somewhere, and I deliberately failed to include the name of Matiang'i. Do you think Kalonzo or Matiang'i would want Sifuna to be powerful? Yeah, to be more popular? Even Rigathi, do you think they will want Sifuna to be popular? No. Babu Owino has always remained the most popular political leader in ODM party after Raila Odinga for several years. Do you think Babu Owino will sit there and wait and watch Sifuna just coming, running away with that popularity? So I'm 100% sure, I am 100% sure that there must have been some internal sabotage. Because most of these people did not even share this website. And lastly, it was a mistake, and I pointed it out. Some of you disagreed with me. When Sifuna announced in Kakamega that they were postponing the political activities, I said that was the worst political mistake. That thing had just picked up. It was reaching the peak. It would have been allowed to reach the peak. Then postponed. So the opponents re-strategized. The supporters were wamechoka. So that postponement has created this slow motion we are witnessing. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Lee McQueen. Bye-bye.